Hello, Music Multiverse listeners. Welcome to our first album listen challenge of 2024. It'll be a little different tonight. It is two albums, but both of us had never heard of them. So, a little different. But before we get into the albums, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I want to remind you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Make it a part of your New Year's resolution, maybe, right? Tell your music-loving friends, your relatives, co-workers, maybe your priest, a guidance counselor, or maybe even a warden. We don't discriminate, as you already know, at Beyond Your Radio, any genre, any.
Don't forget your garbage collectors. They need music too.
So tonight, myself and the Grateful Dude, who's all in from Hawaii, he's been here all week, soaking up the New York State fun in the sun, as there's not been a lick of sun the entire time. Starting with our panel's favorite show, which we did, and then the Buffalo Sabres game, watched the Bills game, and now the Meal to Music, New Year's Eve. That was fantastic. And it was his birthday yesterday. So,
yep. Made the big 7-0, guys.
Woo-hoo! All right. So, we both chose these albums, so we'll start. First up is Pixie Ninja, Hypnagogia, which is a progressive instrumental record that definitely rides the edge of like a soundtrack, ambient, and even kicks off the album with a bit of jazz fusion. I mean, this is what real progressive musicianship really is. It's unpredictable, technically sound, it's broad, and it's reaching, but it does have some familiar prog elements. This is the band's third full-length album, and I had them on my list in the years past, but I'd never listened to a single record. This album is definitely a concept record, which is very true considering its position. Hypnagogia is the transitional state of consciousness between wakefulness and sleep. Their Bandcamp page hits the music right on the head. It says it's somewhere the blend of old and new, vintage and modern, and creating a mood and style. So you got mellotron, saxophone, arpeggio, glockenspiel, string sections, vintage guitars, raw bass and drumming, and of course they even put in the sampling. Here's Thanatosis to give you an example. This was released back in September 2023. The band is probably of Norwegian accumulation, but we do know that there's a hint of Swede. I think the drummer is Swedish. So I'll turn it over to the Grateful Dude, and I'll say, well, how did it go for you on this list?
This album reminds me of gargling with kerosene. It's hard to like, hard to dislike, hard to understand. The parameters of this, we're only going to listen to it once.
Right.
So, it was listenable. The drummer, in my opinion, is the only one that has any musical talent. They just go, they come left, then they come right, then they do U-turns. It's really hard to follow. It's like fusion jazz. There's no roadmap. They start out and they end up somewhere. Would I listen to it again? No, there's no way. Do they have some likableness? Yes. The drummer's really good. Some of when they threw in some weird instruments here and there all over the place, they were good. Was it something that I think, well, obviously there was some kind of script for this or something, but it really did sound like a lot of it like they were just going all over the place. I give the album production probably a 3. You can't really fault that too much. The flow, -1. I don't know if I can do that. It had no flow. It had flow of a, oh God, I don't know. I can't even think anything that negative there.
It's like being in a whirlpool.
Songwriting was there?
Well, I mean, yeah, from a standpoint, yeah, I guess you could say. I
Yeah.
think that conceptually, if you put this together, that's maybe a discussion, right?
Yeah, yeah. Hey, whatever floats your boat. These people were in definitely a boat that had a lot of holes in the bottom. So, musicianship, I'm gonna give it a 3, maybe a 3.5. They weren't bad at all. I bet if I gave them some Van Morrison to play, they'd probably do just fine. So, total songs I liked would be 0. Their overall rating is a 2.5.
Okay. All right. So for me, I'm on a little different page. Not quite off that. I first of all, when the album first started and you got a taste of it with Thanatosis, I felt like, okay, this is going to be a swirling engagement. It had this spastic start, the drumming, and then all of a sudden here comes the saxophone and everything else. But there were parts of this record that are soundtracking that worked really well, and I did understand. I got 2 listens in. I do believe that concept record of it taking the sleeplessness, the sleep and waking part definitely did happen. I don't think that if you're conscious of that, if you know the word of it, you might not understand that the music, But I do believe that it was structured, it had mood, it had a definite style, but it's Prague, and this is like what Prague is supposed to be. Really, it's supposed to be kind of mind blowing in some cases, and I got that in some places. Maybe it was a little too much here and there. Yeah, I think maybe that's the case. The long songs, extremely long, but in that wakefulness and the dream state, there's breaking. And one of the songs, if I Angel Waves. No, maybe it's One Aeronaut. That song is like 9 minutes, I think. 9 minutes of change. That has that gap in it where it's ambient, progressive, but then it picks up again. So yeah. So for me, I'm definitely the production of the record, the sound of it. It sounded great in my ears, although there were some things that were off from the standpoint of just what I was expecting. But I give that a 4. The album flow, yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of with you on that. It's a 1 for me. I don't think it would have mattered what position they were in. Maybe the beginnings and ends of songs might have been different. The songwriting, I would have to plead ignorance. That's kind of my thing. There is no lyrics. This is completely instrumental. But how they put the instruments together and made that out of all that is pretty intriguing. But so I'll keep it in the middle. Musicianship, I do believe that they can all play. I just think this has to be in your wheelhouse, and this is certainly for some people. So I would say that's a 3.5 for me. The total number of songs I really liked. I did like the first one because it threw me off, and I liked the closer. So there was 2 out of the 6 songs I liked. So my overall, I'm a 3.5. Would I listen to it again? Yeah, I probably will, because I do like to go back after a certain time and see if I got like a better understanding of what was going on. So, but next up is the one that kind of blew me, and I think Grateful Dude away. Next up is Ann Wilson and Trip Sitters, Another Door. Oops, sorry. So that's right. That's Ann Wilson apart. Trip Sitter. Okay, well, while you might think they're the luckiest band members along for the ride, I believe the band had a huge part in what's making this album engaging, making it powerful, and drawing out Ann Wilson's vocals, also her songwriting and stuff. So I mentioned this today earlier, that this is the first album that she's written from start to finish with a band, and not under Heart. And I think she did a magnificent job of that. This is classic rock record in some instances, but it's got a great modern spin. There's emotive ballad work that you can be familiar with. That's not only good, it's really that they're trying. And so an example of what I believe is really cool is Rain on Hell or Rain in Hell. Take a listen.
On the radio,
Well, you probably will have had a hard time finding anything on Trip Sitter. There are 3 different bands that have been named Trip Sitter over the years. There's one from Austria. There's a DJ. I don't know if you're going to be able to find anything, but if you want to know what the band names and people are, you'll get that in the articles from some of the websites that have done that. Just note that these gentlemen are, according to the internet, really making the live shows tremendous, and they're punctuating Wilson's range and mannerisms. But what do you say?
Wow. This is arguably the best album I've heard this year.
Plays in.
Yeah,
it's at my number 1.
Yeah.
Will it stay there?
Number 1's a bullet. I've always liked it, their drive, their rawness. It's a great band, always has been. Seen them 3 times, but this album is arguably better than a lot of the hard albums. She just absolutely floored it. This was her writing was so heartfelt. It was like she was writing from the heart all these different songs, and there's a few different genres. You've got rock, hard rock, hillbilly, a folk thrown in there on the left side. It's really a matchup, but it's beautiful, beautiful stuff. I was very, very, very intrigued with it. The song you just heard a little while ago, Hell, is just a fabulous song. By far the best song on the album, But I will tell you right now, I don't have any losers on this album. I liked everything. Our production, I'll give a 4, a strong 4.
Yeah. Good.
Flow, a 5.
Yeah.
Songwriting, a 5. Musicianship, 5.5. Total songs I like, all of them. There was nothing, I'll get a 4.5 as an overall rating, but I love this. I will listen to it many times again.
I mean, even the album cover is cool.
Cool. Album cover is cool. Everything about this album is cool. This was shows you how talented this lady is, and it's sad to say she doesn't want to go back to Heart, because right now Heart's into just making the old moolah, and she wants to do more creative things. And this record really shows how much creativity this lady has.
Yeah. I second that. I mean, first and foremost, when the music is not dated, yet it still keeps that signature of 70s and forward, and it's rocking. They even throw in some interesting things. There's a song with a robot or something that has a very modern sound and development. So they throw some things in there. They don't leave anything to chance. Well produced record, yeah, a 4 for sure. I think there were just some whether her vocal was up or their playing was down might have been the only difference to that for me for a 5. But album flow, yeah, I agree with you, 5. I wouldn't have changed anything. It was perfect from start to finish. Even when they took the chances were in the right spot. They didn't do them early. They didn't do them at the end. Songwriting, yeah, probably the best I've heard from her. I mean, obviously this is the first album she had written for a band. So yeah, that was a 5 for me. Really well written songs, and not seeming like she was reaching to try to touch a genre, or not a genre, but a generation she didn't know. Musicianship, yeah, 4 for me. I didn't think there was anything off or anything. I love that the keyboard came in. That was a nice touch. Total number of songs, I think it was all of them for me. I didn't miss any of that. I thought they were all good. They all had their own, the ballads. Sometimes for me, I'm not a. Sometimes
You're
ballads.
Not a ballad guy.
Sometimes the ballads don't work for me, but hers worked really well. I wasn't turned off by like, oh god, here we go, sap. No sap. Pure
sapless. We're all maple sugar on this one.
Yeah.
All maple sugar.
So my overall rating, I would be a 4.5 for me, somewhere around there. Yeah, it was really good. I think right now it's the first album. I mean, there are other albums that have released already this year. But I really, really, really think that this album's going to hang in there for halfway through the year. I'm going to think back on this, go, wow, what a great record. So Well, I'm going to thank the Grateful Dude for coming out and spending some time in the cold northeastern.
So you guys make sure, set your schedules and your clocks for this Thursday, because I will be back in the basement.
Back in the basement.
Yep. I'll have one more show here before I fly back to beautiful, warm Hawaii.
And that show will be Albums from the Leaf coming up on Thursday.
Lots of surprises on that one.
Yes, absolutely. So we're on the web at beyondyourradio.com, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, you know, the YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. Hey, give us a comment. Did you listen to this record yet? I hope you have, because if you haven't, put it on the list right away. As always,
beautiful record.
As always, thank you for watching. Happy listening.
Aloha.